Jarrod Richey here, and I often get asked as a music teacher and a choir director, could you make a list of things that I should be listening to? Music or books I should read on music education or something. That's often what people ask me, especially people who hear me speak or who interact with me and catch my contagious love of music. Well, this is my attempt to do something of that sort in a fun, lighter way, since we're holed up here for who knows how long while we wait for this virus to take its course. So I'm calling this little series of videos 5 Richey recommendations. And it won't just all be high art and folk music. It will be fun stuff, hopefully, and things that might catch you off guard that you might hear me recommend. Okay, so here's my 5 for items for today. I'm theming this around my music class. Had we still been in session, what would have been played or would be playing around the time we had to cancel school? So here's my top 5 list. It could be shuffled around. You might have a different order, but here we go. Number 5. Italian composer, probably never heard of, Otto Respighi, modern composer. Maybe if you have heard Respighi, you've heard his Pines of Rome. But that's not the recommendation. Here's the piece, Ancient Airs and Dances. It's a selection of orchestral works with it's light and brisk, and I highly recommend it. It's great if you're drawing or listening. It's not too complex of melody and theme that you can't take it in and enjoy it. It's very relaxing. Otto Respighi, spelled Respighi. Ancient Airs and Dances. Number 4. Of course, how can you go wrong with this selection? Bach's Cello Suite Number 1. Yes, the G major cello suite. We all know the prelude. Everyone knows that very well. But I want to throw a caveat on there. Listen to the whole suite or take the prelude and listen to 3 or 4 different versions of cellists playing that version. Bach himself, Yo-Yo Ma himself has at least 3 recordings over multiple decades, of which his newest one came out about a year or so ago, I think. It's pretty recent. So go listen to the prelude or the whole cello suite and hear all the movements there and listen to them back to back. Fun, enjoyable, relaxing. But listen actively. Don't just have it on in the background. All right, number 3. Bedřich Smetana, a Czech composer you may or may not have heard of. The piece is called the Moldau. Without getting into too much of it, the Moldau or Vltava is what it's often referred to in Czech, but Germanized and Anglicized, it's the Moldau, M-O-L-D-A-U, and you can listen to that piece because it's a wonderful tone poem, meaning it's telling a story without words. You're traveling on this river outside of Prague and in the Czech Republic, or what was the Czech Republic, and you're listening to a farmer's wedding as you pass. You're hearing the river themes by 2 violins and rapids and fairy nymphs, if you ask certain people, and old castles and ghostly, on the banks and rapids, all this kind of stuff, all in the music. And so when I listen to this in my classrooms, my students who are not used to listening to music for a story without words find this is a great entry point. So if you're like that, check it out. M-O-L-D-A-U, the Moldau, number 3. Number 2. This is a fun piece if you know the theme, but you don't have to. If you know this tune, a fun theme by a English composer, Thomas Tallis. And Ray Fun Williams, spelled Ralph, Ray Fun Williams took this, his Fantasia on a theme by Thomas Tallis. And this is a wonderful work to listen to because you can hear the theme, especially if you already know the theme. If you've heard it in an old hymn, then you can hear it developed by the low part of the orchestra, by the different families, and it really does some great things for your ears and for you to be able to actively listen, not just let it play in the background. So, number 2, Fantasia on a Theme by Thomas Tallis by Ray Fun Williams. All right, here we go. A little weird, but here comes number 1. This is The Little Organ Fugue by J.S. Bach. Hang on, I hope I didn't lose you. The Little Organ Fugue by J.S. Bach, BWV 578. If you remember that, 578. This is a great piece if you want to get into what was it about music of Bach and Vivaldi and Handel and others and Haydn and Mozart after. What was it about those guys that made them be able to write these large symphonic works? Well, it's polyphony, which is a fancy way of saying a lot of music happening complementary at the same time. And a fugue on an organ is one great example of hearing a theme and hearing a counter theme and hearing complements to those themes woven together, seemingly disorganized, and working out almost like a grand musical Sudoku puzzle. Well, there you have it. If you can listen and appreciate the different timbres and tones on the organ for this little organ fugue, I think you really can have your ears open to a lot of new sounds. If you struggle with it and need to pull a safety valve or phone a friend, well, look at this little organ fugue by a man named Ward Swingle, if you've heard of the Swingle Singers. My students in 10th grade got to sing the Swingle Singers arrangement of this, and it has transformed their love of a fugue. I think if they just had heard a fugue on an organ a bunch of times, they wouldn't have found it as inspiring and as enjoyable as being able to sing a little bit of it and then go, wow, this thing is what a tapestry of tone. So there's my top 5 of songs that we would have heard at our school had we still been meeting. Well, next time it may be something different. I'm going to try to put in the comments or descriptions here either a Spotify playlist link where you can find my recommendations, although not absolute, of artists performing these that are enjoyable. But keep in mind, listen actively. Try these not as Chinese or a foreign language audiobook in the background, but try to listen to them or put them on when you can give a dose of it there. Hopefully I'll throw some more of these videos at you. I don't know, but maybe they'll be fun and short and sweet and just throw something different in your news feed than the latest shutdown or preventative measures being circulated out in the news. So until next time.